took this job of why did I take this job? And I had actually started my own consulting company. I was just gonna go on my own. In fact, I told you that in our interview. And I was gonna consult smaller cities that, you know, didn't have the money to shell out for an economic developer and help where I could. Because I just love helping, but I was pushed by a couple different people from the state chamber and from the Little Rock Regional Chamber. You're like, man, just give that job a look. And you know, I've always had respect for Jacksonville. I grew up in North Little Rock, and so I was like, all right, I threw in an application and you know, got a call to come meet with him. And the first thing when we meet him, he looks at me and goes, "Did you go to Washita Baptist?" Yeah. He goes, "When?" I said, I played baseball down there from '91 to '94. And he goes, "Yeah, I was there too." And it like immediately snapped in my head. I remembered who he was. He didn't hang out with me. Didn't have anything to do with me back then.
I didn't know him.
And not many people did.
It's probably a good thing.
Yeah. Well, you know him longer.
I know him.
But that was probably the most engaging interview that I had ever done. And just the excitement over economic development and, you know, the views that he had, and Cheryl was in there, and who else was in there? And our HR was in there. And it was just the most fun I ever had in an interview. And
About an hour and a half.
yeah, so I need somebody at some point to do this to me, by the way, because
Hey, I've got an alarm set because I've got.
well, no, I'm talking about after he leaves, because I'm very passionate about economic and community development, and I love seeing things grow. So, my thing that I want to talk to you about is, you know, we are at a point where, you know, there's only two ways you can, and I put him on the spot about this. This was not his plan, this was mine. I like to put people on the spot, but there's really only two ways you can raise money in the city. Sales tax revenues, and that's not raising sales tax, that's just sales tax revenues, and raising taxes. Which one would y'all rather have? Would you rather?
Use what we got.
So kind of talk to how the city rolls a little bit on that, because it'll roll into what I'm talking about, how the, you know, sales tax affects the city.
Sales tax is a huge tool of all municipalities, counties, and cities in the state. You all know what it is. You go anywhere, you buy something, you're paying 9.5% on it. Or if you're buying a restaurant prepare bill or staying in a hotel, you're adding an additional 2% to that through the AMP tax, or the hamburger tax, as we lovingly call it. But sales tax is the lifeblood within the city. You know, that is where so much of our income comes from. And you know, it's weird when, as just a resident and non-mayor for all these years, you're sales tax, you gotta pay tax. Now as mayor, it's going, love sales tax. So it changes your perspective of things. But you know, bottom line is we don't want to raise it, and there is no intentions of raising sales. So don't think that this is what this is. This is not a first steps in greasing the wheels towards that. No, not at all. We're actually, you know, wanting the other approach. Instead of raising taxes, we want to increase businesses. We want to increase more opportunity for there to be sales tax, whether it's retail sales, whether it's dining. We want that to two things. One, it's going to benefit the city, allowing us to do more. But then it's also a quality of life issue. It's bringing retailers in, restaurants in, opportunities that we currently don't have. And along with that, and not just the sales tax side, but what I have found, which really is his niche or specialty, is jobs, industry, and developing that. So it all goes hand in hand. Companies, I'm probably, you're gonna tell me to shut up because I'm start stealing your thunder.
No,
but
it's not my thunder.
It
You're
all
the boss.
It all goes hand in hand. Businesses that look at us, corporations, so forth, they want to see what does the city have to offer. Meaning, what is the city going to provide for my employees? You You know, if I'm dropping a factory here, or if I'm dropping 400 jobs for something, or Sig Sauer coming in here, you know, years ago, and now with the expansion, they're gonna be over 900 employees. What do you have for our people? You know, that's one of the things they look at as quality of life. And so that's one of the areas in which, part of economic development, everybody thinks it's just money, you know, money, economic development. No, it's more quality of life development at its root.
So, going back to the reason that I think 76% of our budget is brought in by sales tax,
Close.
something like that. So that is funding, you know, everybody talks about, I've kind of quietly watched and listened and taken notes on, you know, what people around the city are saying. And, you know, it's no different, honestly, than any other town that I've sat in. And, I've worked with the Community Development Institute at UCA, and I've been to different cities and listened to their issues and all. It's always roads, sidewalks, updating drainage, you know, updating sewers, updating, you know, those fundamental needs that we need, that for people to be able to have that good quality of life. It is, you know, how do we, you know, if we develop these new neighborhoods, if they have to drive over a broken down road to get to them, you know, that's gonna hurt development, or that's gonna hurt this. But that's where that sales tax goes. And, you know, there's not a single person that I've met that has come into office that their first thing is that, oh, hey, we're gonna raise sales tax because you guys are asking for all this. No, there's other ways to go about it, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I just wanted the mayor to come up and talk about, that's really the push behind economic development. In both of our perspectives it's called economic development. It's really, you know, community development, quality of life development, because there's not a single thing in the city that goes on that economic development doesn't mesh with. And so I know you have to run, so I just wanted to jump into that real quick. And have fun on your C-130.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't fall out.
One of the things he's probably gonna talk about a little bit is the airbase and relationship with, and what it does for our city and our region, and what we can do using it and leveraging the base and so forth. And one of the things, when I ran for mayor, I talked about wanting to restore a relationship with the base, because it had suffered through the years. And I will say I have worked hard at that over the past year and 4 months now, I guess it is.
And coming in from a different city, I can attest to that, because the airbase was reaching out to other cities for things they should be reaching out to here.
Yeah, and that has changed.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's paid off, and the relationship between the city and the airbase is as strong now, if not stronger than it's ever been. We are in a really good place. I know with the school district, there was talk, I don't know if they've done it yet, or if you may be aware of this, you may not. We're cheesy, you too. They're basically doing a show and tell with parents and letting them come in and tour our facilities. And I think there was about 28 people who had signed up, you know, to do this. And I'm like, that's awesome. That hasn't been happening over the years. So there is an intentional change. There's an intentional change in mindset, in leadership on the base. I'm blessed with the opportunity, the first and third Wednesday of every month, I get to go on base and speak at their newcomers class. So every new airman or civilian employee that comes in is held captive for half a day with all their orientation stuff. And I'm the second, the colonel, base commander, or his delegate is first, I'm second. You get to come in and talk to them, so take that seriously. But, you know, because of that, and that relationship and working towards this stuff, today's one of those payoff days. You know, I was invited to come fly, and so had to go through a bunch of stuff. But yeah, I'm watching my clock. I'm going to be out there in 24 minutes. But yeah, I get to go fly a training mission. So it's just furthering that relationship and showing them, you know, how much you know, the city is going to continue to invest in them. And one of the things that I do talk about on those Wednesdays when I go to newcomers is that how much what the city has invested in this place, in the base, over all these years, the sacrifices that have been made, and how we will continue to invest. But then I turn and I ask them to invest in us, and then I quickly say, and I'm not talking your money. And I do this every time, I've not missed it yet. I said, I'm asking you as airmen to invest in our kids. I said, invest in our school district, go volunteer in our schools, go develop those relationships, mentor these kids, read to them, go to the district office, you can sign up, let them know you're wanting to do this. And I hope there have been, I don't know the results, if they have or not, but I hammer that home with them every time. Invest in our kids, develop those relationships. And so this is the type of stuff that's been going on with them that, behind the scenes that I think is making a difference and healing that relationship. And they're not being told, hey, you wanna go live in the city to our north or to the city to our south, but it's stay here. So, and invest in this town. So anyway.
And just to make it perfectly clear, Jacksonville is the only home of the Little Rock Air Force Base.
There's a story behind that.
Yes, there is.
And I'm not gonna touch it.
And I'm not either, I'm just gonna make that comment, that Jacksonville is the home of the Little Rock Air Force Base. And, so, thank you, Mayor, for, allowing me to call you up without a whole lot of notice, and don't fall out of the plane. We need you to come back on Monday. So, I'll tell you really quick a little bit about myself. And I apologize, normally I stand up and walk around. I just made a shotgun trip down to Mobile, Alabama to pick my daughter up from college. One of 4 that I have to pick up from college. And we made it down there. We left at 7 o'clock on Wednesday and got back at 9 o'clock last night. And went down there, got in Mobile at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, hit the hotel, went to sleep, and woke up, God love her, the kid had everything packed. All we had to do was walk in there and grab about 3 boxes, put it in my car, and we were gone. But that's a long drive. That's 7 hours, so I'm a little stiff and a little sore. So I grew up in North Little Rock, lived there pretty much most of my life until I went to college at Washita Baptist, played baseball down there for 3 years. Tore my shoulder up, transferred to UALR, switched majors 4 times, and I am a proud history major, which most people will say that the phrase you hear most often talking to a history major is, do you want fries with that? So I have never used my history major other than for entertainment purposes only. I am a huge JFK historian. I became obsessed with it when I was in high school and remain that way to this day because it's just, you can go down every wormhole in the world. I worked in the automotive industry for 22 years before the mayor of North Little Rock called me and said, hey, I want you to come work for me. And I did, worked there for 6 years and loved every second of it. Had 2 great mayors that I worked for that I learned a lot from. And, again, when I left, actually in August of last year is when I took my leave. I'd gotten married last year, a whole new family dynamic, and I needed a break of some things. And like I said, I was about to start my own company, and I actually did. In fact, the day after I got my LLC and all approved, I got called to come in for an interview. And I'm not gonna rehash what we just talked about, but it was the most engaging interview that I've ever had. And it made me wanna come work for him. And, in the 90s, what year did we graduate? 91? 91, okay. Sorry, history majors should know those kind of things. But Jacksonville was thought of differently than it is now. And I'm telling you from the outside. I came to Jacksonville for a lot of stuff. I never went to Cabot. I thought Sherwood was a suburb. It was just a neighborhood in North Little Rock. But the early 90s, some things happened here with the VRTAC report coming out. Some things with the school district happened, and 2 cities on each side of it took advantage of it. And that's just the plain, I could sit up here and talk about data and how it happened and all this stuff all day, but that's just what happened. you know, the growth in Sherwood and the growth in Cabot, took place because Jacksonville became stagnant because of really things that didn't exist. But I like to look at places and times and pinpoint things. So that was in the late 80s, early 90s. In 2016, the doors opened to the Jacksonville North Pulaski School District, which I watched from Sherwood, which I lived in Sherwood for about 20 years, because you couldn't find a house in North Little Rock. You know, I watched it happen, and we watched. I was part of the committee that in Sherwood that wanted the same thing, because of nothing happens if you do not have an educated community. You want to raise the value of this city. Education is the number one thing you can do. I don't care what anybody else says. You can have every retail store. You can have every retail giant. You want to change the culture of your city, it's through education. And if you're not investing in the school district, get to investing in it. Spend the time. I'm about ready to cut loose with Dr. Ola, and he and I always laugh. We see each other all the time and stuff, but I'm letting him get finished with the school year. I'm still getting all my information, but things on the city. But if you want to make a difference in the city, you want to make Jacksonville get better, you invest in the schools. You invest in the kids. You invest in teaching them to read. You get them to reading level. That's the biggest thing you'll do for the city. And I don't want to hear anybody say that they're committed to the city if they're not in that school building. I mean, you're not committed to the city if you're not committed to raising our kids to the ability and giving them opportunities. Because if you want to raise somebody out of poverty, the only way you're going to do it is education and making it important to them and making it valued. You know, and so I had this whole thing set up and prepared. Had slides, was gonna bring a TV. 3 o'clock in the morning, I decided, no, I'm just gonna talk. So, hang on, I gotta get my notes out. Seriously, this is my notes I wrote at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, my dad taught me something a long time ago. And he, to this day, he's 74 years old, retired, worked his way up in the banking industry, watched him do it my entire life. He said, I never did anything, but we did a hell of a lot. So I don't like to get credit for things. I'm not a person, I don't like to be in front of things. I love talking to people. I love talking to groups like this. This is different, but I never did anything in North Little Rock. We did close to $700 million worth of investment in 4 years, because it takes the engineering department, it takes the planning department, it takes citizens, it takes the city council understanding, you know, what works and what doesn't work. It takes a mayor that is committed to developing. So keep that in mind in things that you do. If you don't take anything else away from it, other than being involved in the school, is I never did anything, but we did a hell of a lot. And as a community, that's what we have to do here. And it is going to take us supporting local businesses. So you look around, you look at cities this size, and you look at areas that have grown, areas that have stagnated, and areas that have gone down. You know, Jacksonville's kind of stayed about right there. Never gotten real hot, never gotten real low. But you look at areas, you look at Cabot, you look at Benton and Bryant, that have grown, and you look at Conway. When I was in high school, Conway was what, 30,000 people? And it's now surpassed North Little Rock. So you look at those examples around you and go, how the heck did they do it? And none of them have 7,000 people a day coming to one job. There's not a single business in the state that 7,000 people show up to work at every day, and we've got it at the airbase. Why aren't we doing it? And I like to look honestly at a little bit of what Benton and Bryant does on the retail side. because they're very similar. They have, you know, the highway runs right through them. And the way that they brought their retail and stuff back was they support their local shops. And they have good local shops. They have, you know, clothing stores. They have jewelry boutique. They have a lot of things like that. So if you really want to get a roadmap of kind of how to look to grow that side of it, Benton and Bryan are really good at doing it. That is as tight-knit of communities. They hate each other with a passion. If you date somebody that lives on the border, your family might disown you. I mean, it's crazy. It's worse than it was when I was at Washington. We hated Henderson. And, but, you know, that pride is what drives them because they're proud to support their local businesses. Do you think that happens in Jacksonville right now? No, we don't, because we got all the shiny fancy stuff just south of us. Or we got all the new stuff being built north of us. And I'm not jealous of anybody's growth. I'm not gonna sit here today and go, man, I wish I had everything that Cabot had. I don't. I lived in Cabot for a little bit. It ain't that great, just to be honest with you.
Traffic's awful.
It's good. I mean, and it's great that they're growing. We wanna have a strong corridor from from Benton to Bryan all the way through Cabot up to Searcy. Because it makes our state stronger. Because when I go out and we get requests for information on prospective businesses, I can't sell Jacksonville. I can't sell North Little Rock. But I can sell Metro, because our metro area is close to 1 million people, if not 1.3 million. And that's what industry looks at. That's what manufacturing looks at. They don't care that we're 29,000 people or North Little Rock's 65 or Little Rock's 209. They look at that 30-minute radius of people. I can sell that all day because you can duplicate that in Dallas and Fort Worth, and you can duplicate it in Houston and Memphis. That's great. We have one of the strongest workforces in the South that we can sell, and we have something that other cities don't have. We have a heavy industrial part that other cities don't have. Now, obviously, we learned a valuable lesson from the 40s until the 90s that don't make pesticides there and Agent Orange and other things. But you can attract businesses that are into some heavier manufacturing that you can't do in light industrial parks. And it's hard to get moved from a light industrial up to a heavy industrial. It's easy to move down. It's hard to move up into that because you will have a lot of people complain and they'll point to, oh my gosh, they're gonna have something that's gonna poison us. And we had an instance like that in North Little Rock from a glass recycling place that was locating close to a city. And the owner and I went out to public meetings with the community and told them the plans of what they were gonna do. It was not gonna emit any outdoor gases, nothing like that. And so it goes back to educating people. But you know, we can sell Jacksonville as a part of the metro. You know, our 220 acres that we have is, I was floored when I found out that it was owned by the city and it hadn't had anything done with it. Because it's been kind of held back of, oh, we're gonna use it for the state fair, we're gonna get that, or we're gonna get a baseball park, that thing could be pumping out 1,000 jobs right now, like that. 2 years ago, when all the stuff was going in out where Amazon is, I told the mayor, I said I could have dropped about 3 or 4 factories right there if I'd have known it existed. And for some reason, it was kind of held in the back pocket. And do we have any property owners? Any property owners here? Okay. One of the things that you'll hear me preach is we got to be realistic. We got to look at the big picture. And yeah, I want everybody to fund their retirement and make all the money in the world that they can on their property. I have gone through some of the stuff that is listed, and I can tell you from the hands that are raised, it's none of y'all's, that are obscenely out, and it's the same everywhere. Because once the stuff blew up at the port and out of Galloway, everybody thought their land was worth $100,000 an acre. The reason we got those projects is because our land wasn't $100,000 an acre, because they could buy it for $20,000, $30,000 an acre, where in bigger markets it was, but our workforce was better than these bigger markets. So it takes a lot of work, so, you know, but it takes, like I said, it takes a lot of we. And I'm gonna wrap up, cause I wanna take questions more than me talking in just a second, but, and I'm gonna present to city council the second city council meeting this month. And I'll probably throw some data numbers out there and some shiny stuff. But it comes down to a very simple process in economic development. You support your schools, you support your local businesses. That shows, because right now, if anybody comes in to this city, if, are any realtors here? Okay, because there's one or two that have actually had this happen that I've talked to. Perspective, and this is just fast food chains. This isn't even the stuff, we got plenty of fast food, guys. We don't need, that's killing our kids. We need to sit down in restaurants that are good. But I know everybody wants a Whataburger, and my God, yes, everybody loves Whataburger, but it's not that great. It's great, I love them, if they wanna come, happy to take them, but we need to sit down. We need casual sit-down dining. We need things that our people can sit down and talk to each other with, put their phones down and actually communicate. But a ride along with somebody from out of here that knows nothing about Jacksonville, what do you think they see?
A lot of different areas that aren't empty.
You see mismatched businesses, you see businesses that just don't fit next to each other, and that stunts development more than anything in the world. And that's why I asked if there's any property owners here, because when you go for the quick lease of something, just to have somebody fill your building, ask yourself, how many times am I doing that? How many times am I having to do that extra work to get somebody back at my building because I'm just throwing stuff in there just because I need some lease dollars. If you're that tight, maybe property ownership and stuff isn't the thing for you, but that kills the community. Now, the city can do certain things to stop it, council can do ordinances and all that, but you can't have a clothing store next to a transmission shop. You know, you can't, and I worked in the used car business for a long, I used to run the auto auction out on 440. We do not need a single other used car dealership in this city, in any city. They will take an area down economically faster than anything. And I'm talking about the buy here, pay here, cheap lot, you know, and I don't know if anybody read the little short interview I did with the leader. I'm very honest, I'm very upfront, I'm very direct. I will take some people off from time to time because it's fact. I want everybody to be successful, but you know, there's all of a sudden I walked out the front door of the chamber the other day, and there's 15 used cars sitting next to us, and they're junk cars. And that is a perfect place to develop behind the chamber. It's open. There is an opportunity to make that a special place. But you can't do that when you have those type businesses have a place, but they need to be grouped together. And for their sake, they should be grouped together, because that's how you make successful stores. When Target comes into the market, they don't want to come into the market with Target. They want to come into the market with Target and TJ Maxx, or one of TJ Maxx's affiliates, or one of Target's affiliates. They all have affiliates now. You know, smaller stores, smaller footprints, because they drive the same type people. They're not necessarily competing against each other, but they bring in the same type consumer. Walgreens and a buy here, pay here used car lot don't bring in the same consumer. And that's what they're right next to. And so that's one thing. We've got to figure out a way to align our businesses to be successful. And that's a long process. Nothing in this process is quick, by the way. Everybody will point to Argenta and say how great Argenta was. Argenta took 30 years to get to where it is. I know, my dad worked downtown North Little Rock for most of his life. Nobody went to downtown North Little Rock. There was nothing there until a couple local guys bought some of the buildings and started fixing them up. And then you had a few little things come in and work. Restaurante Capello was the first one that was really successful. For the longest time, it was the only thing that was down there. But you look at what it is today, it's because people put the work in for 30 years. The city did not build Argenta. The city came in at the end and built the plaza, and it continued the growth. But what made the heart of downtown North Little Rock was a couple of local people that came in and invested and worked their butt off to make it happen. And that's one of those things you gotta have. So there's nothing in this that's quick. The second thing though about if you drive through town and look, we gotta update our buildings. We gotta, and it's not, I'm not gonna ask anybody to go spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Ask Kathy what we did at the chamber. So when I came in, they fixed the roof on the chamber, because that's where we decided that was the best place for me to be. There's a difference in the way things were run before when Paul Harville was here. He was actually the president of the chamber. I work for the city. My office just happens to be at the chamber. And there is a difference in how things go and what you can do. But we decided it was best to be at the chamber, because that's where economic development should happen. Because once we get a project in, we need to hand it to the chamber, and the chamber then to keep them as a good citizen of the city and be a lobbyist for those businesses. So once we got the new roof in, we were looking around and there's water stains on the wall, kind of like what you guys are doing here, a little updating, a little freshening up, So they came in and they painted my office because, city person, so they fixed my office up. And Kathy and I looked at it and was like, that paint would look great right there, and right there, and right there. And that's how it started, and now almost the whole inside of the building is almost repainted, thanks to a lot of good volunteers, because I fell off the ladder the first day, and I'm not allowed to paint anymore. But a little bit of beautification goes a long, long way. You drive past, and if anybody here owns this building, I'm sorry, but the building that the Baptist Health Clinic is on Main Street, it's like 3 or 4 different shades of blue, faded and worn out looking. Throw some paint on it. I'm looking for opportunities for grants, for everything. But I'm looking specifically for some beautification things that, we can help some business owners and some property owners out to encourage them to, update their buildings. Where Cleo's is, then Discount Ben's, that was great, but from there down, I was pretty sure the tornado hit it. Because the awning's torn off, signs are down, and it just, I wouldn't stand for that if it was at my house. I would rip into my kids and get them to go clean up their rooms. It's not a whole lot different, We gotta have a presentable front, because our demographics, when retail stuff looks at our demographics, they will never give us a second look. It's just the honest truth. The stuff that does come is because some people work their tails off to get it. And some of it's by dumb luck. I think everything I do is by dumb luck, by the way. And some of it's by hard work, and, but our demographics don't show. We have invested in some tools, thanks to the A&P Commission, that we can now provide some up-to-date data of some real-time data, because census data is really difficult to, A, fight against, but B, it's terrible. I mean, think about going door to door to count people in the middle of a pandemic. Nobody got a good count. I don't care what anybody says, they guessed. The whole census was a guess. Don't show that to anybody in the census department, I'll get in trouble. But that's what, when retailers are coming, that's what they look at. They look at our census demographics. Our median income is below the state average. Our population they normally don't look below 50,000 people. They look at the education levels. So again, it goes back to education, get in schools, help people read. They look at what else is there. They look at Walmart and see what Walmart's doing. That's one of the biggest indicators that other retail places look at. They see what's Walmart doing. And they see the numbers that Walmart puts up. And they're like, okay, we have a store in a similar market, similar size, that Walmart does similar numbers, and our store works there. And sorry guys, our Walmart's in the bottom 25% of Walmarts in the country. And it's below the 50% line in the state of Arkansas. But you know where our sales tax dollars are going? They're going to the Walmart in Cabot and the Walmart in Sherwood that has the exact same stuff. And do you know what you're doing when you do that? You're funding Cabot roads, Cabot sidewalks, Cabot's updates. You're funding North Little Rock, Sherwood, Little Rock, all that stuff. When you're taking our sales tax dollars And I used to love this when I was in North Little Rock, because that meant North Little Rock citizens weren't having to pay to fix the roads as much, because we were able to invite people in. So we did a cell phone study of Argenta. 90% of the people that come to Argenta are from outside of North Little Rock. So that's when the city gets a bonus. That's just free money that comes into town, because you don't budget for that, because you budget based on your population. But those people, when you can attract people from outside, they're spending money. So we're fixing everybody else's roads and complaining about ours. How crazy is that? And I'm done. Thumbs up. But that's really kind of where I was gonna end things anyway. My office is at the chamber. I'm terrible about answering my phone, because normally I'm in the middle of something. But if you leave a message, sorry Jim, it took me a couple days, I will call you back. I have two phones and I hate it, but you know, it's what you have to do when you work for a city organization. But stop by the chamber anytime. I invite people to stop by the chamber, because, you know, the look is fresh, the look, it's an inviting place. Have your events at the chamber. Be involved in that. How much do we charge for people to use the back room? Nothing. You know how much other chambers normally charge for a room that size? About $200 minimum, an event. And you get it for free. All you gotta do is ask. Huh?
Thank you.
Do what?
I said that will be changing, thank you.
As it should. I mean, anywhere else is gonna charge you to use, and it's a great space, but it's getting beautified so that it actually is worth using. So, I know everybody's got to probably get to work. If anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to ask. Or, excuse me, I'd be happy to answer. You can ask. So, oh, and I want you to think about something. And this came out of a post that Emily did, our fantastic communications director. And I was looking on Facebook. This is just so you know, I read all y'all's Facebook stuff. She posted a picture of the bridge out at Paradise Park. And I don't know how many questions below it were like, where is that? And something popped in my head, and it was rediscover Jacksonville. So I put that on LinkedIn just as a hashtag. And she and I got to talking about it. Somebody created this really good graphic. I don't know if that person's in the room or not, but you're gonna start seeing that all over on everything that we do, is to rediscover Jacksonville. Because Jacksonville, I've said it a million times, has got some great bones to it. And there are some fantastic things that I didn't know existed in Jacksonville until I drove around and ran into them. You will see me make fun of myself, because I volunteered to. So, you know, if you can't make fun of yourself, then you shouldn't be in public life. But I encourage you to start using that tag on things, is to, you know, rediscover our city. For the people that live here, rediscover the things that make the city what it is, and the great things that, you know, we have a fantastic parks department that we don't take nearly enough advantage of. So anyway, if anybody got any questions, I'll answer. If everybody wants to get to work, I don't mind. Yes?
I just want to point out, recently something I had to purchase in North Little Rock. They have a 12.5% tax in North Little Rock. I think there was something that's 2%, something else is 2%, but the total was 12.5%.
Do y'all know the breakdown of the taxes that we pay? The majority of that is county. 6.25% is county, or 6%, one of the two.
6.25, I think.
Yeah. So the county tax is the majority of the sales tax, and then the state has a 1% tax on top of it. Then you have your city tax. So when people are complaining the city's taxing too high, really the city's tax is a small part of that. So you got to think that 2.5% is really important to us. So.
I don't want to get in.
Exactly. Yes.
What do you see as being more effective for helping the city promoting small business growth, meaning startups and things of that nature, or trying to get the bigger companies in just because they have a bigger bang for your buck?
Yes.
Either one.
Both. I'm working on trying to bring a version of the innovation hub that's in North Little Rock here to help build entrepreneurship, to tag in with the high school, so when these students, these guys have amazing ideas, and to get them to come out and then have a place to use, you know, equipment that they can't afford and use. I mean, I could talk on that for 3 hours. But we've gotta have a hub for that, for people that can't afford an office building but need some co-office space to go work in, that need Wi-Fi, that need a printer, that may need a 3D printer for something, that have these great ideas that are just sitting out there, that we need to take advantage of. We need to take advantage of the area where City Hall is, and make that a little entertainment district. And we have to get rid of the Gray Township. I didn't wanna talk about that, cause again, talk about that for hours. And we think we have a way. And I don't know a whole lot, but I know people. So I find people that know answers, and then people that have questions, and I put them together and I get out of the way. So our legal team, thinks they have a pretty good answer to it. And I think we have a pretty good direction that if we get that taken away, that just takes a cloud out over the city. I mean, we have drink by the glass, so it really is not as big of a deal now as it used to be, but, we do need to get rid of it. But, we need to make that an entertainment district down there where people can come on the weekends and freely walk around, enjoy music down there. You have a great public venue down there. Why not use it more? I mean, the farmers market's this weekend, correct? I think you posted about it, I think yesterday. The big farmers market is Saturday? This weekend? So, yeah. And there's a lot of stuff going on. Need as many people down there as possible. To support that kind of stuff, to show that we support it, because that's how we can show the outside world. If we don't support it, why would anybody from outside support us? So, yes.
Last year I was part of the chamber leadership class of 1, and we were down at the Little Rock Regional Chamber, and Jay was giving a spiel to all of us, and he was talking about basically selling the North Metro region to any business come in, and basically saying, like, if they can't find a place to go in Little Rock or North Little Rock, they go elsewhere. And my question to him was, at the time, was who from Jacksonville is at the table? And his answer was no one. Yeah, exactly. So with your new position, are you currently at the table?
Yeah.
Or do you have someone at the table?
Yeah, I've been on the board for the Metro Little Rock Alliance, in fact, we really did a big push to reinvigorate that about 5 years ago. And I will be at the table of anything with the state, with the city, with the region. Cause I always noticed that when we would get these RFIs sent out to us, requests for information on property, never saw anything come in from Jacksonville. When I got here, so the state has a site selection site that nationwide site selectors go to and look at 0 property up. The second day I was here, we had 11. I've had calls and submitted information on 4 of them, and in conversations on 2. But that's the kind of thing. Nobody's known what Jacksonville has because nobody's been out promoting. And you can't, on a nationwide scale, it is very difficult for realtors to do that. Now, when it comes to fast food places and some smaller retail chains, they normally go to realtors on those things. And I will happily hand those over to them, and they can get all the credit in the world because they deserve it, because they're gonna go have to deal with all the background stuff on it. But I'll provide them as much data and information as they can. But we're gonna have a seat at the table, and every project that comes through, if we have something that is even close to it, I'm going to submit it. The challenging part about that is, on big stuff, is you get the information from site selectors, you send it out, and you don't hear anything for 3 months. And I can use Tractor Supply as a great example. That would have been the 4th million square foot warehouse out at Galloway, had they have reacted a little bit quicker. Because they came in actually before Amazon, but they couldn't quite make their decision, and then Amazon came in and took a different spot. So Tractor Supply then they started looking at Conway, because Conway said, hey, we have free land. And they're like, oh, great. And it turned out it was a swamp, because it was where all the other land drained to. When you get something for free, there's normally a reason. And they came back, and by the time the Tractor Supply came back, the spot that they wanted is now the Dollar General site. Because I didn't hesitate on submitting something over and over and over again, because on those deals, you know, it's like duck hunting. You know, you can't duck hunt with a rifle. And if you come in my office, you'll understand why I bring up duck hunting. But a shotgun spreads out and you got a shot at hitting something. So when it comes to those national ones, I'm gonna throw our best shot every time I can. And eventually, one of those will land. And once you get one thing, so just take our 220 acres, for example. We get one thing out there, the next thing comes. Then the next thing, then the next thing. And that's how you build momentum. But it's different on the retail side. The retail side is totally different from the manufacturing side. And we have to show that we can support retail and we have to support restaurants. You know, the one good thing is the Chili's that we have is one of the best Chili's that exists. But it's the only thing we have really to go to. I mean, I know there's Roma's, I know they're gonna create a really nice dining out here, and you have some local places, but, you know, those are the kind of hole in the wall places that every city has a great place like that. But when you're bringing in 7,000 people that don't live here, and they rotate throughout the year, they look for things that they know. They look for the kind of the safe spots that they go to. So you have to mix in some of that chain stuff. I'm a local restaurant guy through and through. When I travel, I don't go to the chains. I ask somebody at the hotel, hey, what's the spot I gotta go find? So, anyways, I kind of rambled off on that, sorry. Anybody else? Yes?
Yeah, it's not so much a question as it is, you know, just a comment, but everything you've talked about, a lot of that to get the growth in the community, a lot of it is involved with, as we all know, internets. So, you know, I mean, all these businesses are looking at what are my options. So, Brightspeed as the city municipality here, for all the infrastructure, we got all the copper in the ground, which obviously has been here for 40, 50 years in the ground, and we know that. And that's why we as Brightspeed are making that investment to put additional fiber in the ground. We're looking to really come in and work with the chamber and work with the city to help drive that infrastructure to make it more feasible for you to sell Jacksonville, right? Because that internet infrastructure it's viable for businesses, for education, for all of that. So I highly encourage anyone that has questions, because our regional operations manager is gonna be at this event. My manager is gonna be at this event. If you got questions, you got anything that you wanna talk about, I've got invitations here. I encourage you to please come May 15th and we can all discuss, because I know that there's people that have questions about, hey, I live here and I live there, and I'm not the residential guy, but I've got a regional operations manager that's gonna be there that may have some of those answers for you. So, just a comment, and I appreciate it.
And I wanna use Boyd as an example. How long have y'all been here in Jacksonville?
September 2020, but that's when we purchased Jacksonville PT.
So how long had that been here before?
40 years.
Okay, so then Harris Renshaw came in, and what did y'all tell him?
And we were approached by the guy that owned Jacksonville PT. He wanted to retire. So Harrison Renshaw bought it. They tapped me to be the director. And I think the original guy, he was a one-man show. He was happy with status quo. Well, I started marketing. And before long, we ran out of space, and we went from 1,400 square feet to now 4,000 square feet.
New good-looking building. When's your ribbon cutting?
16th.
16, 4 o'clock.
Everybody's invited.
Yeah. But what I'm getting to is, Harris Renshaw is a pretty well-known name in physical therapy. But there was a reputation built on your name because the community supported it, and they kept the name the same because it was specific to Jacksonville, because that name matters locally. That's what we need to do with every business we have. We need to make
didn't change the name.
our businesses to be known locally so that they thrive. And even if they get bought by somebody from, and I know the guys that own Harris Renshaw, the Renshaw guy's kind of an ass, but you know,
Can be.
our daughters play volleyball together. But you build that credibility in your home businesses and then nothing can break them down, nothing can take them away. Because you build that strength. First Arkansas Bank and Trust, huge competitor of my dad, by the way. And when Jay Cheshire was pushing me to go to Jacksonville, he goes, "You need to have your dad call Larry Wilson." And, you know, okay. So I told Dad, I said, "Hey, can you call Larry Wilson?" He goes, "Why?" I said, "Well, I'm interviewing in Jacksonville, and Jay said it would be a good idea." He goes, "All right, I know Larry well." So he called, and Dad called me back, and he goes, "You know, Larry said he'd give the mayor a recommendation on you." He goes, "But I have no idea what he's gonna tell him." He could say, don't hire that jackass's son. You know? But, you know, Larry was one of the first people that approached me when I got the job. But look at what First Arkansas Bank's done. They stayed. Their headquarters is on Main Street. Why don't we have other buildings building around that? That's what you build around. You build around that, what is it, 4 stories?
3.
3 stories? 3-story building. We've got a shopping center behind it that I've actually got a meeting after this with the owner of it. And rebuild that area and make it strong. Because we've got great anchors in spots. We just gotta support it.
We've had a plan for Main Street for years
Mm-hmm.
that nobody does anything with. And most people have forgotten what was recommended a long time ago. Is it time to start some community involvement?
It is,
to
and
have
Jim and
some-
I talked about that some
have
as
some
well.
Meetings, put that slideshow back up.
Well, let me tell you about that plan.
Uh-huh.
And I'm, like I said, I'm brutally honest. That plan looks great. It is absolutely not feasible. Unless somebody has the money to buy out
Yeah.
everything on Main Street.
Sure.
And that's where you have to as a city think really wisely of what you want and what you can do.
Well, how about we start having some community?
Now, we can take that
meetings
plan and
do
we can
that.
maybe adjust it to where parts of it do fit. And if y'all haven't seen it, it's really a great plan. I mean, it starts from basically the come and go and goes, and it's all park grass and beautiful space. But the thing is, we have that right next to City Hall right now that we don't even take advantage of well enough. So why build another one and take out all these potential businesses at a massive expense? You know, you can't, if you go eminent domain stuff, it doesn't mean the city gets it for free. The city has to pay appraised value for it. And I know there's some people on Main Street that would probably say no. Because he likes his
I'm
building.
not talking about taking out buildings.
No.
I'm talking about beautiful.
No, I 100% agree on
And I'm
you.
talking about going for infrastructure grants that let us put in bike lanes and better sidewalks, and that money is out there available.
It
now.
is. There's so much grant money available, it's ridiculous. Now, the hoops you have to jump through to get to them sometimes are crazy.
Right, but we
you,
need to have the engineers and the park people talking together to come up with this, because deadlines
Yeah.
for a lot of them is May 1st next year.
yep.
'Cause
And
we
we're already,
missed this year. 'cause
yeah,
nobody did
we're already
it.
working on it.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I'm going after every grant possible. And I'm big on communicating between departments. You know, the 2 Jumpstart programs that happened in North Little Rock started in 2013. And they just kind of floated along. 2019, Mayor Smith looked at me and said, either get this done or we're giving the money back. Because we had the money. And 6 months later, we finished all the stuff in Jacksonville and in Levy, and got it done. And yes, there was a lot of complaints initially about it, because it changed the demographic, because they're like, now, no, not as many cars drive by. The cars that were driving by 80 miles an hour going to work. They weren't stopping at the shops. Park Hill is, I think, done now. That one has taken forever, because if you know anything about Park Hill, it is just a big, giant rock. And you can't run fiber under around there. There's no way. So anyway, I know it is getting late. Like I said, I could sit and talk about this stuff all day. I do ask that if you do want to sit down and talk, just call me and schedule a time, because I might just get up and go run and look at property at some moment. I might not be there. So, but if you drop in, you see a black 2011 Ford Explorer sitting out there, looks a little beat up, that's me. And if I'm there, I'm more than happy to talk to you. So that's all I got.
I agree, we can talk about this.